Hello and welcome back to the Naked Expat channel. Today I'd like to talk to you about two very important matters. Firstly, living wills and lasting powers of attorney, and secondly, multi-jurisdictional wills. Now, before we discuss these two very important subjects, we first need to understand about domicile, nationality and residency. Domicile, nationality and residency are very, very important to establish prior to even looking at anything like lasting powers of attorney or writing your wills. For an expat, domicile, nationality and residency is extremely important. Being an expatriate in a foreign country may present a few questions when it comes to writing your will. Your nationality, domicile and residency can mean that your wealth and assets are bound by different laws after your death. In certain countries, individuals are subject to inheritance tax, whilst in others, gifting to heirs is allowed to avoid tax implications, and in some cases very large tax implications. If you own property overseas or have stocks and shares in foreign accounts, these may be subject to different laws to that of your money that's held in the UK, for example. Your state of residency can even have influence, as certain states in participating countries are bound by estate tax too. With these factors in mind, as an expat, it's essential to clarify your residency and nationality with your will writer to understand what's possible and what isn't in terms of your estate after you pass away. With regards to nationality, this is the country where you were born or where your passport was initially issued. This means that you have a right to return to this country at any time and to own bank accounts in this country, even if you aren't living there as a citizen in that country. This can be beneficial when deciding where assets will be moved to after you die. If you intend to assign a large quantity of money to a friend or relative still living in your country of birth, then it may be easier from a tax perspective to keep the majority of this money in an account in that country. Transferring money to accounts overseas is typically subject to larger taxes. Now, residency. This is the country where you live and you intend to stay for the remainder of your life. Being an expat, this probably isn't the same place you were born. In regard to tax, this is a good thing, as it means that the assets held abroad may be eligible to be gifted to your beneficiaries without any issues. Talking to a lawyer will help you determine how your family can receive the highest benefit from each of your assets, depending on the country where they are held. It's worth noting though that whilst you are alive, any property, stocks or shares held overseas must still be declared on your tax return. After your death, the law changes slightly and may consider tax on certain assets that are held abroad to be null, just because those assets are not held within the country in which you reside. Now, domicile. This is a legally assigned entity name for your country. You are provided with a domicile at birth and can only maintain one single domicile at any time throughout your life. However, this can change based on your circumstances. If you own a green card, for example, you may be from another country but now have the legal right to remain in the USA. Therefore, your domicile will now be America. With regards to wills and estate planning, as an expat, when planning your estate and your will, you should be specific about the country that you consider your domicile. This potentially determines the amount of tax for your estate and the properties and assets in case of your sudden death. It's always changeable later on if you do decide to relocate. But if this isn't planned into your will and kept up to date, the tax on your estate may be calculated incorrectly, so be aware of this. Now that we've discussed the differences between nationality, residency and domicile, now let's look at the first two subjects, living wills and lasting powers of attorney. Essentially, you have two very important pieces of paper whilst you're alive. One is a living will and power of attorney, which decides what happens to you if you don't die but you lose your marbles. And two, a will, which takes effect if you do die. So let's look at the first of these, living wills and power of attorney. What are they and how can they be a benefit to you? A recent study and research by the Alzheimer's Society reported that 1 million people living in the UK will have dementia by the end of 2025. Their study also shows that 1 out of 5 people who are older than 85 years of age already have dementia. Now, I know both my parents are now passed away, but they both suffered from dementia from about age 83. So this hits very close to home for myself. This is an alarming figure, specifically for those who have not managed their finances before they became ill. This further stresses the importance of planning in advance for the sake of your family, as a will may not be possible if you aren't deemed of sound mind when you want to create a lasting power of attorney. It's too late then, you've lost your marbles. However, this does pose a problem if you are unfortunate enough to be the victim of early onset dementia. Throughout your life, naturally, your priorities will change and you may start to rely on different relationships and people in your life. Normally, this could require a change in your will to amend the beneficiaries so that the people that you now hold dear are the ones who will benefit from your estate. But if you aren't accepted as well enough to update your will later on, then your estate may be legally tied to your old beneficiaries and they are no longer your chosen beneficiaries. In this case, if you have a lasting power of attorney in place, in this scenario, it's possible to assign someone to have a lasting power of attorney, or LPA, who can make decisions on your behalf in case of illnesses like dementia. The LPA is a legal document that gives the person of your choice the authority to oversee your finances for you. It's a misconception that your next of kin will automatically be able to manage all of your finances if you are mentally incapable. If you don't elect a power of attorney, or POA, then your decisions will be made wholly by the state. This could mean that they are for the benefit of your care or your care provider and not necessarily your loved ones. Now, there are 2 kinds of LPAs, or lasting powers of attorney. 1, health and welfare lasting power of attorney, and 2, property and financial affairs lasting power of attorney. Let's look at the first one first. Health and welfare lasting power of attorney. The person appointed is granted the power to handle decisions on your behalf with matters concerning your health and welfare, in the event where you lack the capacity to make these decisions by yourself. 2, property and financial affairs lasting power of attorney. The person appointed is granted the power to handle decisions on your behalf regarding matters concerning property and financial affairs if you cannot make those decisions by yourself. You can entrust the lasting power of attorney to the same person or different person. The property and financial affairs lasting power of attorney will manage all of your financial interests. This can include making changes to the benefactors of your will should the original benefactors decline the funds given to them, unlikely, or if they die prior to your death, which would otherwise leave your will unclaimed. Lasting powers of attorney are recognised by financial or other institutions such as tax and pension authorities, and documents that appoint a lasting power of attorney are legally binding and may also be established without a lawyer. In the UK, for example, LPAs should be registered with the Office of the Public Guardian and normally can't be changed unless there are signs of abuse, so do choose wisely. At the time of this vlog, it costs less than £100 to register a power of attorney in the UK and can take up to 9 weeks to set the full process in motion legally, even if you are an expat living abroad. Low-income households may even be entitled to a 50% discount, so it's worth spending the money to get this peace of mind. Now that I've briefly explained the first of 2 sections, the first being living wills and lasting powers of attorney, let's now look at the second section, multi-jurisdictional wills. In order for your own financial peace of mind, expats should understand the intricacies of multi-jurisdictional wills. Being an expat in a foreign country might complicate inheritance tax arrangements due to variations in overseas laws. It's important that you fully understand the laws of succession in the country that you currently reside, and also the country that your benefactor resided in prior to their death, if this differs from your own. Getting to grips with these laws in these cases will allow you to avoid any unforeseen challenges or obstacles when it comes to collecting your inheritance. For example, in certain countries, it is law that people must assign a percentage of their wealth and assets to their next of kin. This law may override any specific wishes in the will, regardless of circumstances or reason for the benefactor to wish for this not to be the case. However, in this situation, it may be possible for the person writing the will to state the percentage of wealth that the next of kin is assigned to. In the case that you don't wish your next of kin to receive any of your assets after you pass, you may be able to state a lower percentage and the reasoning behind this. If you have bank accounts, stocks, funds, property and other possessions in a country other than where you are currently residing, whether or not this is your country of residency or domicile, you should prepare a will which includes all of these assets. The will should be written to reflect the laws in the country where you hold these assets, even if that isn't the country where you currently reside. Writing a will wholly using the laws where you currently reside to distribute overseas assets could lead to your wealth and property being seized by the state if your wishes aren't compatible with the overseas law. When it comes to writing your will, you should set aside a specific section for each country where you hold assets. This helps to ensure that each asset is legally passed to a beneficiary in keeping with the laws in that country and will avoid confusion later when your will is read. As this part of the process can be extremely confusing, it's a good idea to consult with a lawyer who specialises in asset division and succession plans to ensure your wishes will be met in accordance with the law and to gain that peace of mind that you are leaving your loved ones with something of value. Now, I hope this has been of interest with regards to nationality, domicile and residency, lasting powers of attorney, which if you get hit by a bus and you don't die, are very important, and multi-jurisdictional wills. Wills being important documents that come into effect if you get hit by the bus and you do die. An important consideration is where you store these documents, because this is often overlooked. And with wills and lasting powers of attorney being such valuable and important documents, you should really consider where these are going to be stored. If you keep them at home, for example, and you live in Asia, you might be subject to earthquakes, typhoons, etc. Any type of disaster, which could mean that these wills are simply lost, damaged or destroyed. Life is unpredictable. That's why I recommend making a will and storing it sensibly. It's not just a lack of a will that puts your assets at risk. There are certain things in life which may cause you to lose documentation, misplace files, or miss an opportunity to hand your assets and wealth to the people that are most important to you. Don't make this mistake. Personal circumstances, divorce, fires, and natural disasters are just a few of the problems that can affect the way you store your will and your related documents. This is why it is crucial you use a professional storage and review service to make sure that your written will is stored in a safe place to prevent damage and can also be updated depending on changes in your circumstances. Don't be lazy or a cheap Charlie and ignore professional document storage. Although only the copy of your will that is signed by you is legally binding, storing a copy to be retrieved later can be beneficial in the event that the original is destroyed. This would mean that the responsibility of the storage and review service to provide a rewrite exactly the same as the original for re-signing should your will be destroyed by accident. Statistics reveal that 1 out of 3 wills are missing. I'll repeat that again, considering that only 44% of people in the UK have made a will, and as far as expats are concerned, out of a recent 110,000 person study, 60% of people said they intended to make a will, but out of those 110,000 people, surprise, surprise, only 1.4% had actually made a will. That means that of the 5.5 million current expats, British expats, living overseas, the vast majority haven't made a will, and of those that have made a will, 1 in 3 get lost. This is bonkers. If there is no backup version, the courts will make a decision regarding your estate after your death under the rule of intestacy. If your will is lost, 1, your beneficiaries will suffer and your plans for estate distribution may not be followed. 2, family disagreements may arise due to problems in asset distribution. 3, there may be no choice but to use an outdated will which no longer states your wishes. Certainly if you are married before and then divorced, you've got children from an ex-partner or new partner, your money's not going to potentially go where you want it to go. So it's very, very important that your new will can be found. To prevent your life savings or your assets being distributed incorrectly, it is essential that you store your legally binding will safely and securely, and review it regularly and make changes as necessary. I would certainly recommend every 5 years to ensure that everything is up to date and as you intend for the foreseeable future. Even if you don't change, you should actually review it every 5 years. As I mentioned previously, I was a senior financial advisor at Hargreaves Lansdown in the UK for many, many years before setting up my own company and then subsequently retiring early. I am an expat living in Asia and have had considerable amount of experience with high net worth clients, with estate planning and the intricacies involved in people's tax affairs. A person I thoroughly recommend that you contact and discuss your will and lasting power of attorney requirements with is a gentleman called Jamie Lee. Jamie is a fully qualified overseas financial advisor and expat will specialist. I've known Jamie for over 20 years. I thoroughly recommend that you contact Jamie regarding your finances, asset allocation on death, and your expat will and lasting power of attorney requirements. You'll find Jamie's contact details in the description box below and also on my website. If you visit the Expat Will website for more information on Jamie's services and highly regarded flagship will writing and document storage arrangements, do use the code NAKEDEXPAT, that's 2 words, NAKEDEXPAT, for an additional 10% discount. I hope you found this of interest. Please do ensure that you have effective estate planning in place so that your assets can be distributed as per your wishes upon your demise. And also, crucially, because of the wonders of modern medicine, people are being kept alive and living longer. You have lasting power of attorneys in place so that your health, welfare and financial assets can be managed if you are incapable of doing so yourself. Thank you.